Marshall, Virginia. This is Route 55. I take it all the time. As many times as I've passed that sign, I've never read it. McClellan relieved from command at Rectortown, 4 miles north, which is that way. General George McClellan received the order relieving him from command of the Army of the Potomac, November 7th, 1862. As Burnside, his successor, was present, McClellan immediately turned over the command to him. Two disastrous generals. This is a pretty rural scene, isn't it? Very nice. And what's the name of that creek? I'm not sure, but I'll find out in post-production. On to Hume. All right, how do we get to Flint Hill? We take this road to Hume. We make it to the Big B's Tavern, take a right, and then take a left on Zachary Taylor Memorial Highway. Let's go. I am in Hume, Virginia. And this, it's a private home, but it's Barbee's Tavern. On the northwest corner of the Crossroads, Crossroads being right there, is a yellow stuccoed frame building, an old log tavern with a center stone chimney, there it is up there, which was Barbee's Tavern, dating from the pre-stagecoach days, circa 1787, built by Joe Barbee. The tavern was in operation during colonial and Civil War times and apparently had a thriving business. Nice modern sign. Bamboo! I hate bamboo. Route 522, 10 miles south of Front Royal, Virginia, the Hiddles Mill Road, Civil War trails. Whenever I see those, I want to know what's happening. Hiddles Mill, leading Lee's second northern invasion. On June 11th, 1863, 2 days after the Battle of Brandy Station, General Lee's second invasion of the North began as Ewell's Corps led the Army of the Northern Virginia north from Culpeper. All right, I resumed the march and bivouacked about 1.5 miles. I don't see much that went on here, frankly, at Hiddles Mill. You are here, okay. Swell. Well, here I am in Flint Hill. There's a Civil War trail sign pointing down that way somewhere. I'm not certain. I don't see a plaque. There's the Griffin Tavern across the street. It's like an appealing place. A nice old church. And then this pretty building. I need to eat lunch. I'd like to sit down, so I wonder if the Community Bible Church of Flint Hill would object if I sat in one of their benches. I don't think they would. But it's a pretty tree. I've always said that April is a really pretty month in the state of Virginia. Well, there's a Virginia Civil War Trails sign right here at this church, which happens to be the Flint Hill Baptist Church. In the little town of Flint Hill. Let's find out what makes this place special. This church was erected in 1854, and it's on the National Register of Historic Places. There's a rocky outcropping. 1854. See, I looked at it and I would have assumed around 1900 or so. Let's see what that plaque says. Albert Gallatin Willis. This is the burial site of a Mosby Ranger who sacrificed himself for a friend. By the autumn of 1864, Colonel Mosby's Rangers had so harassed Union troop supply lines and railroads that General Grant ordered, where any of Mosby's men are caught, hang them without a trial. 6 Rangers were summarily executed in Front Royal on September 23rd. One was dragged through the streets as his mother begged for his life. Mosby blamed General Custer for the incident, but responsibility was never clearly established. On October 10th, Rangers on the Chancellor's Farm near here captured a Federal soldier posing as a Confederate and hung him on the spot. In retaliation, Union General William H. Powell burned the farm buildings. On the afternoon of October 13th, Ranger Albert Gallatin Willis, a ministerial student, shared a meal with Miss Lucy Twisdale here at Rose Cliff. I guess this is Rose Cliff. Shortly thereafter, he and another ranger were captured at the blacksmith shop on Bend the New Plantation and taken to the Marlowe farm near the Chester Gap Turnpike at the foot of the Blue Ridge. Powell ordered that one of them be executed. Willis's companion was initially chosen. He begged for his life, as he was married, had a family, and was not prepared to die. Willis, who was single, offered to take his place, then prayed for the executioners. He was hanged the next day from a poplar tree on the Marlowe farm. Lucy Twisdale and 3 male friends retrieved Willis's body and buried him in the corner of this churchyard. Wow! What a story! That is amazing. Albert Gallatin Willis, an honored Confederate, born, killed. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. On November 6, 1864, in retaliation for Willis and the 6 Rangers killed in Front Royal, Mosby had 20-odd Union prisoners from Custer and Powell commands draw lots. Near Berryville, 7 men were selected for execution. 3 were hanged, 2 were shot, and 2 escaped. Mosby then wrote to Union General Phil Sheridan, "The future prisoners falling into my hands will be treated with kindness unless some new act of barbarity shall compel me to adopt a policy repugnant to humanity." No more summary executions by either side occurred in Mosby's Confederacy. That's Benvenue Road that leads to Flint Hill, and now I'm on the intersection of 729 and 618 somewhere in Richmond, somewhere in Virginia. I don't know where, I've never been here. But I saw this. So what happened here? Dangerfield Newby. And a very interesting character. Dangerfield Newby, a free mulatto for whose family this crossroads is named, is the first of John Brown's raiders killed during the attack on Harper's Ferry on October 16, 1859. He was the oldest child of Henry Newby and a slave, Elsie. Edward Newby, Henry's father, built the house across the road in the 1770s. Well, there's a house somewhere. Henry Newby lived there until 1830, then sold it and moved to a nearby farm on Gordville Run, Thornton River. Dangerfield likely spent part of his youth near here and may have worked as a blacksmith and deckhand on canal boats on the Rappahannock. In 1858, Henry Newby moved with Elsie and their children, including Dangerfield, to Bridgeport, Ohio, and freed them. Dangerfield Newby tried to buy his own wife, Harriet, and their children, who were enslaved in Prince William County, Virginia, but failed. He joined John Brown's raiders, hoping that a successful attack on Harper's Ferry would somehow free them. Newby killed 2 residents before he was shot and killed near the U.S. Arsenal. I didn't know that he killed 2 residents. He and 7 other dead raiders were buried near the Shenandoah River and then moved in 1899 to John Brown's farm in North Elba, New York. Letters from Harriet Newby were found 5 miles northeast of Harper's Ferry at the Kennedy farm, from which the raiders launched their attack. She was sold south to Louisiana, but eventually returned. Dangerfield Newby's brother William served in the 5th U.S. Colored Troops, didn't know that, and died at Petersburg in June 1864. Elsie Newby applied for a pension based on her son's service. I didn't know this site was here. So, Battle Mountain, Custer's early last stand. This is a description during the second half of July 1863. The Union Army pursued Lee. Confederates marched south, protection of the Rapidan. The largest single military engagement in the county occurred here on the morning of July 24th, 63, when Union General George A. Custer, with 5 cavalry regiments and 2 batteries, attacked the rear of Confederate General Longstreet's corps and the head of Hill's corps as they marched down the Richmond Road. Custer placed artillery on the shoulder of Battle Mountain and shelled Hill's men, who returned fire from the embankment. 2 Union officers received the Medal of Honor for their actions during this engagement. Custer's rear guard held Banning's Confederates in check for 2 hours. This delaying action enabled Custer and his command to escape by cutting a road through dense woods and racing back to his camp at Amosville. So here we are, Newby's Crossroads, Custer, Gaines Crossroads, present-day Benvenue. Newby's Crossroads. I've known about Dangerfield Newby for a long time because I'm something of a buff of Harper's Ferry. Encounter with Lee. Don't you ever forget it. Confederate General Robert E. Lee passed through Rappahannock County on 4 occasions. The first occurred on August 26, 1862 on the march to Manassas. And the second took place late in October during the retreat after the Battle of Antietam, Maryland. The Browning farm sat astride the Richmond Road south of here. 11-year-old Samuel Browning stood near the family farmhouse 100 yards east of the road and watched as part of Lee's Army of Northern Virginia marched past on a hot June afternoon. To the thirsty soldiers, hundreds of whom fell out with heat stroke during this long march, water was precious. A group of gray-clad horsemen approached Samuel, and one inquired where they might find water. The boy directed them to the spring just below his home, and the group paused there to refresh themselves. As they remounted, one of the officers asked Samuel if he knew who had asked him about the water. When the boy answered that he did not, the man exclaimed, "That was Robert E. Lee, and don't you ever forget it!" Samuel Browning took the admonition to heart, and succeeding generations of local residents have maintained the oral tradition. And we have a Rappahannock County Civil War sites pamphlet, which I think I shall take for future planning use. This is the Benvenue Road. I'm headed back towards Flint Hill and therefore Front Royal. When I came by these places, I thought they were curious. I didn't know what they were. A Rappahannock County pamphlet explained it. Those three buildings are actually one of the best surviving examples of antebellum slave quarters in Virginia. So they date to before the Civil War. They're slave quarters. They were obviously associated with this home. I don't know if that building dates to before the Civil War, but that's what they are. Now, probably about 5 miles south of Front Royal, I saw this sign, so I pulled over. What have we got here? The Chester Gap. This is a mountain pass of strategic importance throughout the Civil War. Both sides occupied and traversed it on numerous occasions. Nathaniel Banks, Corps of the Union Army of Virginia, marched en route to its month-long occupation of Rappahannock County. Here's what it looked like. Chester Gap. In the month following the Battle of Antietam, both sides sparred for control of the Blue Ridge passes. Intense skirmishing took place in and near Chester Gap. Played a critical role for Confederates during the Gettysburg campaign. And Union General Torbert and 5,000 cavalrymen bivouacked here on the night of December 19th, 1864, during a raid on Gordonsville. Was horrible. Minding the gaps. And this plaque talks about how the gap was of great strategic importance during Gettysburg campaign. You can read this on your own. Here we are.
Ride free, brother. Ride free.